Hi guys, my name is Ranjan and today in this video I'll show you how you can implement role-based security in PowerApps for SharePoint Group. Okay, so here there are three main steps that we will implement in this video. First of all, we'll create a SharePoint group where we are going to place our members, and then we'll create a flow to check user permission by making a REST call to SharePoint, and thereafter in the third step we are going to create a Power App sample app and call our flow from Power App, and based on what this flow returns, we are going to show or hide certain screen or controls in Power App. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a SharePoint group. So this is my SharePoint site, thinkcloud6.sharepoint.com, and here first thing I'll create a SharePoint group. Okay, so I'll go to site settings, and here in site settings I'll go to people and groups, and in people and groups I'll click on more and create a new group. So this group I'll call it as Think Cloud Admins. Okay, so Think Cloud is my site name. I'll give this group name as Think Cloud Admins, and thereafter in the next step what I need to do is that I'll have to change the setting, the group setting from here. Right now you can see here that it is set as who can view the membership of this group is set to group members. We want to ensure that anybody in the organization can actually go ahead and check the membership of this particular group. Okay, because again flow needs to connect to this particular SharePoint group and thereafter check that whether the current user is the member of this group or not. Okay, so here I'm going to change this setting and make it as everyone, and post that I need not give any site level access on this group. I'll create it. After it gets created, here you can see that my name has already been added as a group owner. If I want, I can add other users from my organization. Okay, so here I have got few more users created under this tenancy. I'll add this user. Now in the next step what I am going to do is that I'll create a flow to check user permission. Okay, so here is my flow screen. I'll go ahead and create a blank flow. So we'll click on search 100 of connectors and triggers, and then I'll search for Power Apps. We want to call our flow from Power App. Okay, so because Power App cannot directly go and check the user membership in available in a SharePoint group, so we'll make use of flow to send a HTTP request to SharePoint by sending appropriate endpoint URI, and based on the response that flow is going to give, we are going to take it in Power Apps, and based on that value we can show or hide the controls. Okay, so I'll select triggers, Power Apps trigger over here. Okay, and after this I'm going to create two different variables. Okay, first variable will be a boolean variable wherein we are going to store the membership of the current user, whether he is part of this group or not. And in the second variable we are going to store the result, whatever JSON result that we are going to get from the URI from SharePoint. Based on that JSON we are going to store over here. Okay, so I'll create a new variable and initialize it. So here is initialize variable. I'll give this name something like is group member. Okay, so I'll call it as is group member, and I'll keep it as a boolean variable, and I'll rename this action and call it as is group member. Okay, is group member variable. Okay, and then after this I'll create another variable, and this would be of string type. So here I'll initialize another variable. So this is initialize Yep, this is initialize variable, and I'll rename this and call it as like initialize membership JSON result. Okay, variable, call it as membership JSON result. I'll make it as a string variable membership JSON result. After this, we are going to check that whether the current user is a member of this group or not, right? So we have created this SharePoint group ThinkCloud admins. So I need to check that whether a user belongs to this group or not. So how we can do it? We are going to make use of an action called as send HTTP request to SharePoint. Yep, so this is the action that I'm going to use. I'll rename it and call it as like check user group. Okay, and then here we need to pass our site address wherein like your group is lying. Okay, so here I'll select my site name and give it over here. Yep, post that the method we just want to like go ahead and get this value. Okay, so get HTTP method is absolutely fine. After this we need to pass the correct endpoint. What is the endpoint that you want to actually hit? So I'll create this URI underscore API web, and then site groups, get by name. We want to get our SharePoint group. So here in between single quote I'll pass my group name. So this is my group name, ThinkCloud admins. I'll pass it over here, and then users, to get all the users in this group, and then question mark filter. This is a OData query that we are writing to filter out, get only specific user based on his or her email ID. Okay, so here in between single quote, uh, right, first of all, like I'm going to put my email ID. I'm hard coding it so that I can check that whether this endpoint is correct or not. Once I validate this thing that this endpoint is correct, then I'm going to replace this static email ID that I'm going to write over here. Will directly take it from PowerApps. Okay, so I'll show you that how you can get it, take it from PowerApps in Flow. So this is my email ID here. Okay, and yep, let me put it over here, and then I can go back to my site, and yep, I'll open it like this. Yep, so you see here that it is bringing the result associated with my email ID. That means like this URI is correct. Now what I need to do is that I don't want to use this directly. So here I'll remove this. Okay, and in place of this I'll click on Power Apps, see more, and I'll click on ask in Power Apps. Okay, so here I click on ask in Power Apps. This way now this input parameter we need to pass from our Power Apps to Flow. I'll show you how we can pass this value from our Power Apps. Okay, so we'll move ahead, and thereafter now what I need to do is that I will have to set the value, whatever like response that you are getting back from SharePoint. I'm going to set it in the variable that just now, like there are two variables that we have created. So out of that, like I'm going to set this response in our membership JSON result variable. So here I'll select set variable. Okay, so this is set variable, and I'll rename it. I'll call it as like set membership JSON result. Okay, membership JSON result we are going to set over here. This is a variable, and I'll select membership JSON result. Now here I need to give the value. What is the value that you want to get? So here I'll make use of expression, and I'll read the body of the response that we are getting from where? From the previous action. So whatever is the name of your previous action, we are going to place the same name over here. In case you have got a space in your action name, you can replace space with your underscore, the symbol. Okay, so I'll write exactly the name of my this action, previous action, check user group, and then post this. I can I'll pass this D results, because whatever results that we are going to get, I want to read it, right? So here this is the response that we are getting. So out of this we want to read the complete result. Okay, so this is your body. In single quote you'll have to give your action name, check user group, then D results. Okay, so if it is fine, then it will come up over here. Otherwise it will give you an invalid character error if in case there's any problem with the character that you have inserted. Okay, and once we have got the response object in our this variable, what we are going to do is that we are going to test this condition. Okay, we want to find out that whether it has blank value, or it has got there has been any response that it has received based on the user is available in the group or not. Okay, so here I'm going to check a condition, and in this condition we are going to check. Okay, so here I'll write an expression, and I'll check equals and equals. Thereafter I'm going to use variable, because we have already shared this value over here, right? We have set the value in the variable, so I'll call equals, and then under this I'll select this value and pass membership JSON result, and post that we are going to compare this value, that whatever is there in this variable, does it matches with an empty object. Okay, so we can check like this. Okay, so in between single quote I'm giving this square braces. Okay, so here equals variables membership JSON result, comma, we are comparing it with the empty object, and then we are going to close it. Okay, and then we will check. So if it is blank, then it is going to return true. So I'll check here that whether this value is equal to true or not. If it is true, that means we understand that the current user for which we are checking the membership is not available in the group. Okay, so here I'll set our second variable. So here we have got set variable. I'll set is member. Yep, so here I'll set is group member to false, and on the other side I'll once again call set variable, and here I'm going to set rename it to set is group member to true. Okay, so now here we're going to check this value. Okay, we are going to set this value here. This is group member, and what is the value that we are going to set? We are going to set a false value, right? Because if it is equal to empty, we are checking that whether this value is equal to empty. If it is true, that means he is not a member of the group, so we are setting is member group to false. And on the other side we are going to set is group member is equal to true. Okay, so here I'll write as true, and once we have done this, what we need to do is that we need to return this value is group member. We have we have found out that whether the current user is a member of this group or not. So we need to use this variable in our Power App. So we'll add a new step, and I'll select response. Okay, so there's like respond to Power Apps. I'll select this action, and in respond to Power Apps, what we can do is that we can mention the output that you want to send back to your Power Apps. So I'll click on add an output, select text type, and I'll name it as like is group member. Okay, and post that I will set the value, whatever value that is available in this variable. I'm going to set this value over here, and then I'll write this flow. I'll give a name to this flow. Check maybe like user role in SP group. Okay, I'll call it as SP group. I'll take this name and keep it here so that we can easily make out in Power Apps which is the flow that we need to call. I'll save it. Okay, so once we have saved this, before we go ahead and use it in Power Apps, we can test our flow that it is working properly or not. So I'll click on test over here, and I'll perform the trigger action, and I'll pass. Okay, so the first time is going to ask for this connection validation, and then yep, here it is expecting a parameter. What is the parameter that you are going to send to this flow? So here I can write directly, this is my mail ID. I want to check for against this mail ID that whether we are part of this group or not. So the flow has run successfully. I'll click on flow activity, click over here, and then in this case you can see here that we have initialized the variable, and then we are checking the user group. It's returning the response body. So D results is like this data associated with the user is coming up over here. Then we are setting it in this variable. We are checking the condition because this is not an empty object, so it has been set to false. And here post that like, okay, this has not got executed because he is a member of the group, so we are setting it to like true. And based on that, this is the response that is going to like set in this variable. If you want, like we can go ahead and I can delete the current user and show you that it will return an empty object. Okay, the same thing will validate once again in Power Apps. Okay, so here I'll go ahead and close my flow. I don't need it as of now, and I'll come to my Power Apps. Okay, and I will create a new Power App. This is a Canvas app, and I'll create a blank app with tablet layout. Yep, so this is my home screen of Power App. I'll select tablet layout, blank app. I will rename this default screen, and I'll call it as like welcome screen, and post that I'm going to insert a button. This is like a very simple activity just to show you that how the button would be displayed or hidden based on the user membership. Okay, so I'll change the text of this button. Yep, so I'll call it as admin settings, and post that I can even change the size of this text. Yep, so I'll make it as like maybe 22. Yep, so here this is our button, and I'll rename it and call it as admin button. Post that I'll save this, and I can call it as like whatever like name I gave here, check user role, right? You can call it as check user role in SP SharePoint group. it need not be the exactly the same name as to what you gave to flow. It's just that this is what I'm giving. You can give any name to this app. Once it gets saved, what we are going to do is that our first task is to find out that we need to call our flow and check that whether the user is a member of this SharePoint group or not, right? So here I'll select our screen, and thereafter I'll select on visible. This is the property that I'm selecting, and here I'm going to set a variable. I'll select is member. Okay. Yep. So here first of all we are going to define a global variable called as is member. Okay. So I'm defining a variable set is member, and what I'm going to do is that we need to call our flow over here. Okay, so before we can call our flow, what we'll have to do is that we'll have to we'll have to add our flow to this Power App. So here I'll click on Action tab and then click on Flows. I click on Flows. After that, you see here that these are the two flows that are available right now, and we have just now created this check user role in SP group. So I'll select check user role in SP group. Okay, and yep, so I'll select it. This is getting added to our Power App. Now once this gets added, it has replaced that set field, set value. So I have I did a undo Control Z. So now here what I'm going to do is that I'll call this flow. So the moment this screen becomes visible, we are going to call our flow and then pass email address to the flow, and we'll set the value of a particular boolean field based on like user membership. Whatever flow is going to return, we are going to set it in a variable, and then like based on that we can set it on any of the control that you want to show or hide. So here I'm including this check user role in SP group, and then I need to pass a parameter, right? So here it is saying that invalid number of arguments, expected 1, because we clicked on this edit option, right? Sorry, when I click on edit option here in this case, this is wherein like we are passing this value over here, right? So this is the parameter that is expecting. So our parameter is the email address of the current user. So I'll pass by encoding the URL, encoding the email address of the current user. I'm going to select user, that is current user dot email. So it'll give us current user's email, and fine. So we have set is member equal to by calling this flow we are passing the email ID of the current user. So I can put a comment over here, right? So I can write something like set is member to the text value returned as output parameter from flow, right? Yep. Once you have done this, so this is going to return a text value. So it would be better if we can define a new Boolean variable, and we can check the text whatever is set in this is member variable, and based on that maybe like we can convert it to a Boolean value. Then it would be easier for us to associate it with any of the control, right? If we are like directly getting the Boolean result. Okay, so here to do this, I'll create a new variable, right? So here this is set. I'll call it as is visible. Okay, yep. So this is your is visible, and then I'll write if condition and check. I'll convert it to lowercase, and this is our is member dot is group member. Now is member is your this variable, and is group member is this value that is getting returned from here. So we are converting it dot is group member, and we will check it with what is the text value that is coming up over here. If it is equal to true, then we'll set true boolean on in our is visible variable. Otherwise it would be false. Yep. So here I'll close it, and post that I can put a comment over here saying set is visible to boolean value based on is member text. Okay, now once I have done this, I can select it and format this complete text. This is how you can format the formula that you are writing. So set is member, check user permission group dot run. We are passing the email address. It will set a value true or false in text over here, and after that we are setting is visible, which is another global variable, and we are checking that the value that is returned is equal to true. If it is true, then we are setting this value to true. Now after this, what I can do is that we can simply go ahead and select our button, and in this button I will select visible property of this button, and post that I will in place of true, I'll set it to the boolean that just now we have defined. Okay, so this is like hiding this button, but I am there in this group. So what I'm going to do is that I'll publish this. Yep, I'll publish this. Once it is published, I'll close this application, and then I can once again refresh this screen, and then run check user role in SharePoint group. So here I'll click on allow. So you see here that it is showing this button to me. Now after this, what I'm going to do is that I'll select my name and remove it from here. Once it is removed, I'll close this app and once again like launch it. So here I'll launch this, and this time you see here that this button is gone. I can show you that in my flow it would have got executed based on like 2 times we clicked on this Power App. So first time when I was part of this group, at that time it is giving us this value because first time I was member of this group. The second time when I executed it, at that time I removed my name from the group. So here if you check, it will return a blank value. See here that the response body is D results. It's an empty object. Okay, so this is the reason why when we check the condition it became true, because this is an empty object, and based on that we have set is group member to false, and this is what we are returning. Once we have returned this in our boolean variable, it is setting it to equal to false. Okay, so this is how you can go ahead and implement this functionality. Once you have defined the boolean value, you can associate it with any screen or any of the control in your Power App, and if you want to test it across like multiple SharePoint group, then you can like use a proper naming convention for the variable. Okay, so if you like this video, put your comments, and in the description of this video we'll share the blog link of I mean each of this video, so that you can copy the URI and any other like formula that you would like to copy. You can go ahead and copy it from the blog. Okay, thank you for watching our video. If you liked it, please subscribe to our channel. Thank you.